Welcome to Sumita Roy's English classroom. This is Professor Sumita Roy, and today we shall talk about how to use polite language. English is a very polite language, so we need to know how to use the language properly in all these contexts so that it sounds polite. It sounds as though we have the correct good manners. We call it etiquette. So, good etiquette, good manners, good values are shown by the language which we use. Before we begin to talk about all this, let me remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Please like the videos. Whichever video you're watching, please watch it fully and press the like button. Then share it with all your friends who would also want to learn English. Comment on the videos about what you are able to learn, how much you're able to learn from each video. For every video, please put a comment. And then, of course, you have to also watch it fully and share it, etc. So if you do all this, then I feel that my effort in helping you with English is really reaching all of you. Today we have a video on speaking well, simple English communication, improving your speaking skill in order to speak the language politely. In English, we have words like please, or thank you, or sorry, or I beg your pardon, please forgive me, or I, you know, you say welcome. These are all words which are very often used. While doing modal auxiliary verbs, I also told you that all many of the modal auxiliaries are used for polite requests. Very often, when you're walking on the road, you might notice that at police booths where traffic policemen are standing, they write, "May I help you?" That means the police are eager to help all of us. Here it is a request. May I help you? It's a form of a question. Then you can also say, "May I ask you a question?" Instead of saying, I, I will ask you a question or I want to ask you a question, it is good to say, "May I ask you a question?" Suppose you want something from someone. You can't say, "I want your help." Instead, you could say, "Could you please help me?" or "Could you help me?" You tell somebody, "Open the door" or "Close the door." It sounds like an order. Instead, what you can say is, "Please close the door." And once the person closes the door, you say, "Thank you." Or, "Please open the door." And then when the door is opened, you say, "Thank you." "Please complete your work." Instead of saying, "Complete your work" or "Do your work," to say, "Please do your work." Even if you are an older person, if you are a person in authority, that means a person who is higher up, you are the boss, you are the leader, and you are talking to a subordinate, still, it is much better to say please, or it is much better to put it in the form of a polite request. Suppose you want to give advice to somebody. Then instead of giving an advice, you can put it politely by saying, "Should you make such a decision?" You want to say, "Don't make this decision. It is not a good decision." Instead, what you say, Should you make such a decision? That means you are putting it in a form of a question where both the answers are possible. The person can choose to take your advice, or the person can ignore your advice. When somebody says, "May I come in?" then you can answer by saying, "Please come in." Suppose you are going into an interview room. You go in and you wait till the interview committee or the person who's taking your interview says, "Please sit down." They might say, "Sit down," but it is much better to say, "Please sit down." Then you sit, and then they ask you questions. Suppose you cannot understand a question, then what you say is, "I beg your pardon." Instead of saying, "I couldn't understand the question, I don't know what you're saying." Those are rude ways of asking. What you say is, "I beg your pardon." I beg your pardon, if you say, that means the person is expected to repeat the question. Whenever you cannot understand, it is polite to say, "I beg your pardon." Or you can say, "Could you please repeat? I couldn't understand." Instead of saying, "Repeat," or "Tell me again," you say, "Could you please repeat what you asked me?" This is a polite way of putting things across. Suppose two people are speaking to each other, then their conversation goes ahead only when they are polite with each other. Suppose you meet somebody, then you say, "How are you?" The other person replies by saying, "I'm fine, thank you." You know, doesn't end the sentence by saying, "I'm fine." It is always better to say, "I'm fine, thank you." Why are you thanking that person? You are thanking that person for having asked how you are. Are you feeling better? Yes, thank you. That means, "I'm feeling better, thank you." That is what you want to say. Why are you saying thank you? You're saying thank you because the person is showing consideration. The person is showing a lot of care. Suppose somebody gives you something, then again you have to thank them. Small children are taught, when somebody gives them a chocolate or some gift, then they say, "Please say thank you." The, when the person says thank you, the baby, the child says thank you, then you can say, "You are most welcome." Again, you are using a polite form. You are welcome. You are welcome means, whatever I have given you, you are welcome to take it and enjoy it. That is what it implies. Polite language gets you very often a lot of attention. If you are polite, then you get, a lot of respect from people. Suppose you are getting into a car, somebody opens the door for you, you can say thank you. Some people start laughing by saying, "Oh my, that person is only a driver in a car. Why should we say thank you to that person?" Please remember, nobody is higher or lower than us in position. All of us are equal. It is only because by chance we might have a higher position. By chance we might have a vehicle which is driven by a driver, a person who might work under you or at a lower level in the company. But to say thank you to that person is not going to take away our importance. It is not going to demean our position. We are not going to fall down by saying thank you. A thank you is usually accompanied with a smile. That also is important. When we use polite language, our face also should indicate that politeness. If you have committed a crime, somebody has pointed out that you made a terrible mistake, many people hate to apologize. Many people hate to say sorry. They say, I will not say sorry. The other person should say sorry to me. There is someone you insulted. Suppose by chance you insulted a person. Now you have to go to that person and say sorry. Can you really say sorry? Yes, that is politeness. That is decency. So even if you have to apologize to a person who's younger to you, there is no harm done. If the parents have to apologize to their children, no harm done. By your example, the child learns that it is good to say sorry when you know you have made a mistake. To admit that we have made a mistake is a great quality. So, saying sorry, there's nothing wrong. Very often, you will find that in the middle of a road, two people who might have two vehicles fighting with each other, saying, you have hit me, you have hit me. Nobody is willing to say sorry. The conflict comes to an end just by saying sorry. Suppose you have made a mistake, and the mistake was made when all your colleagues are there and it was in a meeting. Then you say, how can I apologize? I made a mistake in front of so many people. But you have to. A person who's courageous immediately says sorry. Very often, as teachers, we might make a mistake in a class. Somebody asks me a question. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm the teacher and they are the students. But I should have the courage to say sorry to them. Sorry, you have asked me this question. I do not know the answer. I will find out and let you know. This does not make teachers less in importance. They don't lose the respect in the eyes of their students. By saying sorry, we have stability in our stature. Whatever position we are in, we become firmly established in that. We get respect from people when we know how to apologize and where to say sorry. Sometimes people say sorry or please or thank you without meaning them at all. That is not politeness. Politeness means what comes from within, what comes from your heart. You are saying it wholeheartedly. You say thank you with a scowling face, with an angry face. You say thank you. That is not thank you. When you're saying thank you, there should be a warmth, there should be a wholehearted feeling in that. Thank you or thanks a lot. I thank you wholeheartedly. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. That is warmth. You have a lot of emotion, you have a lot of feeling in that thank you. Similarly, when you are saying sorry, you must show that you are really sorry. You must show that you have, you know, tried to tell this person that what you have done is not correct. Unless you are able to do this, your language is not polite. Politeness comes with practice of a long time. So, whenever you want to ask something of somebody, you go home very tired. You say, why should we be polite to the people at home? They are our own people. But that way we lose the habit. So you say, please give me a cup of tea, or please give me something to eat. I'm very hungry. Or you can say, could I have something to eat? Could I have a cup of tea? You cannot go inside and then say, T. Such a rude sound and such a rude word. That kind of rudeness is not what helps us to learn a language like English, which is a polite language. So when we say please, we do not become, you know, beholden to anybody. By saying please, we do not make ourselves bend down. We say please, even though we might be very important. Suppose your boss calls you on the phone and says, bring the files. You might feel reluctant to go to the boss with the files. But if the boss says, please bring me the files, you go with an open mind. You go with enthusiasm and eagerness. You go quickly and you help. If your teacher comes to class and says, please show me your homework, you feel eager to show the homework. The teacher comes and says, homework. Everybody gets upset. They said, why such a rude word, such a word in a tone which is so hurtful? Therefore, when we speak, we have to use this polite language. We have to use this polite tone. We have to use a polite facial expression. Suppose you are walking on the road and by mistake, you hit against somebody, your elbow hits somebody's hand, or your bag touches somebody's bag. Immediately, you can say, I beg your pardon, or I'm sorry. Or you can say, did I hurt you? I'm sorry, did I hurt you? Then what are you saying? The mistake might have been the other person's mistake. That other person has not said anything. You initiate the apology, and that person feels that he or she can also apologize. In this way, conversations start. In this way, friends are made. In this way, you get to practice your English, and your English becomes better. Suppose you are standing in a queue. Somebody wants to go ahead. They can come and say, please, my train leaves now. Could I break the queue? Or I have to catch this bus. Could I go ahead? Please? That is much polite. Instead of pushing and saying, I want to go first, I want to go first. That does not get you any response. Whenever we are speaking, you must remember that we want a positive reply, we want a positive response. So if somebody says, let me pass, you'll say, sorry, I cannot let you pass. But if somebody says, please, I have to catch the bus, would you allow me to go ahead? You say, yes, please do. Then you allow that person to break the queue and go ahead. This is the power of positive, polite language. This is the power which we have to cultivate. So you have small conversations where you use thank you, where you use please or sorry, or may I, or could I, or would you. All these forms, when you start using, then you find that your conversation is becoming better. Next time you see a person, so you can say, would you like to visit me? That person says, thank you, I would like that. I would like to come to your house. If somebody comes home, you say, please come in. Instead of just opening the door and standing, if you say, please come in, that person feels welcome. That person comes in with eagerness. If you find somebody who's old standing in a bus, you get up and say, please take my seat. That person feels so grateful, says thank you, and really gives all the blessings to you. In this way, when we try to use polite language, it becomes better. In the bus, if you just stand up and not say a word, somebody else takes your seat. You lose the seat, but the elderly person doesn't get the seat. So you're saying that, please take my seat, makes a lot of difference. Somebody is standing and you want that person to take your seat and you want to stand, then communicate it clearly. Unless you communicate it clearly, unless you tell in correct words, it is not going to be understood. If you just say seat and point out, nobody is going to take that seat because that is not polite at all. If you say, would you like to sit where I'm sitting? I can stand. Or may I give you my seat? These are all polite ways of speaking. Suppose you want to buy something, then you can also use polite language. Instead of saying 1 item or 1 kilo, what you say is, please let me have this item or please give me that. Many of you feel that by using polite language, we are not communicating properly. I have heard many people say, many students say that if we are so polite, nobody will pay attention to us. Nobody will give us what we want, or nobody will do what we tell them to. I don't think this is correct. I'm telling you from my long decades of experience, not experience as a teacher, but experience as a human being. Always a request, a polite way of speaking, a small smile, a welcoming expression, these get you an excellent response from people. Even people who are not usually outgoing, who are not usually nice or helpful, come forward and help you, come forward and do things for you whenever you use polite language. So there is no harm in using it. When you go for the first time to college, you want to make friends with everybody, then you say, may I know your name? I'm so and so. So in say your name, if you say your name, that is rude, that is not good. So you say, may I know your name? And then you give your name. I am so and so, and may I know your name? This polite request also gets you a polite request. May I know from where you come? All of you have come to a new college, so you must be from different cities. You want to know from where each person comes. Could you tell me how far your house is from this college? Could you tell me which subjects you have chosen? Will you be able to help me to find lecture hall number 2? These are all polite ways. They are question forms, but actually they are called polite requests. All of them are formed in the form of questions. I'm not going into great details here because you will find these when you go through the video of modal auxiliaries. I'm mentioning modal auxiliaries all the time because some of you wanted to learn this. If you go to the list of videos already uploaded in the channel, you will be able to find modal auxiliaries easily. And there you will find in many of the columns of usage, I have given polite request. That polite request is a part of polite language. When the person who's going to teach you comes, then says, please sit down. If the person says sit, when all of you stand up to greet your teacher, the person says sit, it doesn't sound so good. If it says please sit down, it sounds much better. So those of you who are teachers, I'm getting a lot of comment from teachers. Teachers can remember that you are the role models. If you say please and thank you, if you say sorry and welcome and I beg your pardon, I apologize, then your students will learn this. You say I'm grateful, your students will learn this. If somebody in the classroom, in the school room, cleans the board once you have written as a teacher, do you forget to say thank you? As the principal of the college, you enter the college, 100 students say good morning. You feel, oh, how can I repeat good morning to 100 students who have greeted me? But at least a nod, at least a smile, at least a look at them, acknowledging that they have said good morning. This is most important. Otherwise, the young boy or girl feels disheartened. When the boss walks into the office, people might get up and greet that person. The man or the woman who's your boss comes in, you greet that person. That person looks through you or goes away looking at the smartphone, not acknowledging it. You feel insulted. That is what happens. A polite language always demands a polite response. If somebody says, good morning, sir, it doesn't harm you to say good morning. If you can't say good morning, you say morning. That is enough. The good is understood. We put an apostrophe, morning, you say. That is good enough. You just nod your head by saying, good. Somebody says good morning, you say that. That is good enough. That shows that you are responding. Remember that speaking is exchange of ideas. If one person is only speaking and there are no exchanges, that is not good enough. That is why I keep telling you all, please remember to send comments. Even if you say good morning, of course, that comment, I would rather, I feel very happy when you say good morning, ma'am, or thank you, ma'am. That's wonderful. But I want to know a little more in English because my interest in your comment is to make you practice English. I might not reply to you for a week, 10 days, 1 month, but you are practicing English. You can practice the politeness by saying, please tell us this, or please do this. And you can also say, thank you for teaching us this, or thank you for teaching us that. I feel sorry I didn't know these things. You can use all these words. Therefore, if you start using them, you get familiar with them. Otherwise, we become stuck when we have to say. Somebody gives you something, you forget to say thank you. Somebody says thank you, you forget to respond properly. If somebody says please, you don't know how to reply politely. In this way, we miss out and our communication becomes bad. Speaking implies that you respond in the same way. Somebody is saying hello, you can easily say hello or hi. If somebody says hello and you say good morning, that means you are expecting that person to say good morning to you. That kind of meaning is also implied. Therefore, you have to be very careful as to what communication, what word, what sentence requires what reply. And that is where politeness is very important. So please use these words carefully. Please see that you are using thank you, sorry regularly, very often. Don't allow your ego to stand in the way of saying thank you. Oh, that person is expected to give me things. Why should I say thank you? If your parents give you food, you say, oh, it's their duty to give us food. Why should we say thank you? This is the attitude which has to change. Polite language implies politeness with everybody. We have to remember this. Unless we remember this, we cannot get the benefit of good English. Speaking well implies using polite language correctly. So please practice, please watch and subscribe and comment and share and like. Don't forget to do these things. Thank you and all the best.